Welcome back to Just an Everyday Fan. So I started digging into the CBA and I happened to find it online, and then I started digging into the WNBPA, and that is the Women's National Basketball Players Association, and this is a union, represents the players of the WNBA. It was founded in 1998. It is the first labor union for professional women athletes, and it works off CBAs, or collective bargaining agreements, union, to determine salaries, benefits, and working conditions. Now, it's made up of an executive committee of players. Forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong. Nike Ogumake. I'm sure I butchered that. I am almost positive that I butchered that. I am so sorry. She is the president. Kelsey Plum, she's first VP. Elizabeth Williams, secretary. Brianna Turner, treasurer. Alyssa Clark, VP. Nafisa Collier, VP. Go Fee. Brianna Stewart, VP. Go Stewie. All right, and then there's multiple other, there's a primary and an alternate for every single team. From what I found, that's not updated. They still have the primary for the Phoenix Mercury as Sophie Cunningham. Well, we now know she is with the Indiana Fever. And then they had, for the Indiana Fever, they had Samuelson as the primary. Well, she's elsewhere. So they need to update that. The goal of this organization is, quote, to get the best deal for all players. The CBA occurs every 4 years, so we're coming up on the new contract. Now, the players, the women players from the W, are saying, we want to be paid like the men. Well, the average man, or the average men's salary for the NBA is $10 million a year. The average W salary is $120 to $150K per year. The highest salary on the NBA is $50 million, and the highest salary on the WNBA is $250K, so that's their max salary. And I know of one person who's receiving that on the Indiana Fever. The men get 50% of all related revenue shares. So anything related, I'm guessing that might be ticket sales and merch and food, beverage, depending on how the contracts are set up in each city. I'm not certain about the food and beverage, don't know about that. So basketball related income, and this, I guess, could go for the national syndication contracts and commercials, anything that might rep the NBA. So the women's team, the WNBA, gets a smaller percentage. So they get 20 to 25% of those things. I think labor unions have their place. I do. But you have to be careful. Especially here, especially now, especially with this contract. Because if you were to say, we want $1 million cap for our players, we want, our rookies coming in to get 150, 200,000, and they go in that direction, it's going to be difficult. because all they have to do is bring out. Now, it's also my understanding, and this is kind of a across the board thing. So I was a manager for supply chain, medical supply chain, right? The hospitals and the ambulatory surgery centers. So you had hospitals and you had ambulatory surgery centers. The ambulatory surgery centers always had to subsidize the hospitals. The hospitals normally operated at an operating loss. The surgery centers or the ambulatory centers operated typically, if they were associated with hospitals, they typically ran at profit, right? So there were subsidies that were coming from the ambulatory surgery centers to subsidize the hospitals to keep their doors open, to keep their people paid. Well, accordingly, and I'm hearing these things. I don't know this for a fact because I'm new to this gig, and I'm trying to find out as much information as I can. Still, I think it's fascinating. The NBA is having to subsidize the WNBA $10 million a year. So they're saying, we're not going to give you what you're asking for because we're already losing, and we have been losing $10 million a year from your lack of ticket sales, the upkeep on the stadiums, whatever the case may be, whatever the salaries, everything. The travel, you name it, the expenses, it's a balance sheet. At the end of the day, it's a number. The NBA is making money. The WNBA is not. However, 2023, in comes Caitlin Clark. 2023, after the All-Star, she explodes. She brings with her the Caitlin Clark effect. Viewership spiked. Sales of tickets spiked. Season tickets spiked. Interest from companies that wanted to be repped spiked. Commercials, everything. I can think of, let's see, Caitlin Clark. She's Gatorade commercial, State Farm commercial. She has her own shoe from Nike now. Wilson basketballs, multi-million-dollar deal. All of this interest is coming in, and the owners want a piece of it. So what are they doing? They see all this money floating on top, and they want to expand their net, right? They want a bigger net. So instead, they want to not put so much money toward the players that are currently there. They want a team expansion because the stadiums are already there. They're piggybacking on an NBA team. Like the Dallas Wings here are piggybacking on the Mavericks, right? And so you have all these associations. You have Indiana Fever and the Pacers, and you can go to every city and kind of the Phoenix Mercury and the Sun. You have all of these brother-sister relationships that are piggybacking. So if you already have a stadium, why not use it, right? So this is the thought process, I'm sure. I'm not at their table, but we already have the stadium. We already have the contracts. Everything's already in place. Let's just open expansion teams. Now the players are going, that's not going to work for us. You're killing everything we want. But the players have to be careful here because the owners can say we're taking a $10 million loss, or they were, okay? Now, Caitlin came in, she changed everything. With all that came the interest, the changes. They have some stuff to bargain with, but they have to be extremely careful. Players, you cannot walk away from this table and go on strike for next year, because the owners can just shut you down. They can totally dissolve the WNBA. Totally dissolve it. It's no longer. And they can take, some billionaire can come in and offer Caitlin another $10 million to start another team elsewhere. I can see it happening. I was vigilant. I went on and found the CBA contract. 350 pages if you want to read it. I, however, did not. It was kind of fascinating. It went into everything. It went into all the drug usage and all the testing, and it went into just great detail. So I found the rookie pay scale for this year, 2025 through, I believe it was 2027. It looks like they're giving roughly, now I didn't know this is another thing I learned. First round draft picks get offered more money than second, third, and subsequent draft picks. So if you're in the first round, picks 1 through 4, your salary is going to be the highest. They're going to bring you in this year at 76.5 and some change. Picks 5 through 8 are 73.4 and some change. Remaining picks are 70,300 and some change. Second round, 67 and some change. Third round, 64 and some change. All others, 64 and some change. So third round down is 64 and some change. So that's the first year base salary. Then you have the second year base salary. And it appears that it looks like it's about a lateral 3%, and then year by year, another lateral 3%. So it looks like roughly every year they get a 3% cost of living on their base salary. Now, I'm guessing they get options to that, so there might be more money coming in. And on the fourth year, there is an option-based salary, and it, for picks 1 through 4, first round, it's 97.5. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. With the remaining picks, all the way down at the bottom, 78.5. Now, over the course of 4 years, which is what a CBA agreement is good for, every 4 years they have to come to the table, negotiate, and re-sign. This is not going to end well for the players if they don't play ball here. You have to compromise. And I know you're probably thinking, well, all we do is compromise. The men are making all this money and we're making nothing at all. That's true, but you have to look at the overall books. If these owners are making bank on the men with the ticket sales, with the merch sales, with the clothing sales, and everything they're doing, and the national syndication contracts for television, they can afford it. If the WNBA is coming in and they're losing money, they're not going to be able to afford to give you a $2 or $3 million a year salary. So I think you compromise here. I do not want to see the W players go on strike, because I think it's going to be the end of the W. You are not like pilots. Let's say if American Airlines, their pilots went on strike, they have leverage. Every day those pilots are on strike, they are losing money. Losing money. Losing market share. Losing everything, right? Those pilots, they come to the table with something to work with and strong arm the owners and the board of trustees and directors to say, you know what? We're just going to walk, we're going to strike, we're going to sit it out. They're not going away. The owners will pick up and say, we don't need a women's team. They could do that. We don't need a women's team associated with the NBA. Y'all are costing us money. So I don't want to see that happen. I would love to see a fair compromise. And maybe it's not this. Maybe you get the salaries a bit higher. Maybe you could negotiate the area you live in. So if you're living in a major metropolitan area, say San Francisco, Washington, New York, all of your high-cost areas, Phoenix, Dallas, Fort Worth, some of your high-cost areas, maybe you say the players get paid according to the team they're on, to the region that they are, because $64,000 in LA is not going to be the same as $64,000 in Tennessee, right? I'm just pulling a state out of my you-know-what. It's not going to be the same. Or let's just say $64,000 in LA is not going to be the same as $64,000 in Oklahoma. Oklahoma, $64,000 is going to go a lot further. You can do a lot more with $64,000 there. You're not even going to be able to survive with $64,000 in LA. So maybe you do it that way. Maybe you break it down and you say these cities pay more because they are higher cost of living cities. And maybe you bring that minimum cap that they're trying to do for next year at $66,000, maybe you bring it up to $72,000. That would be a compromise. That might be a compromise that they might be able to work with because of the Caitlin Clark effect, because of the interest, because of the 2 million new viewers, just like me, fans that have come on board. Because Caitlin brought us, but we're staying for the love of the game and all the players and the teams that we have fallen in love with in the WNBA. That's what I would like to see happen. I do not want to see you go on strike because I think that you're going to be on the losing end of the stick there. You just don't have the leverage that some of the other organizations like pilots for an airline would have. Maybe you get them to open the books. Maybe there's a financial analysis. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I don't want to see you just back away and say no and, rubber stamp it no and walk away, because I think that would be the end of the W. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What do y'all think on this? It's a shame. This is kind of a political thing. It's a shame that you have to have unions to be able to protect the employees. But this is our life. This is our reality. Anyway, whichever way. I wish you well. I wish you all the luck in the world. And I know y'all are going to do good. Just think about the compromise and think about what's going to work for both sides of the table. Because I would love for the WNBA to be here next year. Until next time.